If you're trying to build your own startup business, it is so easy to feel completely overwhelmed by everything that needs to be done, that you just basically want to sit back and do nothing. And it's completely normal. While we all procrastinate on a daily basis in many aspects of our lives, prolonged procrastination in your business can actually make or break your startup. But luckily, there are a couple of strategies to overcome these. But James Clear, he's the author of the book Atomic Habits. He's got a very good description of what procrastination actually means. And he describes it as a conflict between your present self and your future self. Your present self is focused on obtaining immediate happiness, basically that human factor of immediate gratification. And your future self is focused on long-term benefits. And procrastination happens when your present self wins and you want some immediate happiness or gratification watching a Netflix movie, whereas your future self knows if you are putting in the work right now, you will reap the benefits in the long term of having a successful business. So what you need to do is start working on the future self to win instead of the present self. So in this video, I will take you through 5 strategies to overcome procrastination. The very first strategy is to literally show up. Sit down, put your phone away, put it on silent. It is so easy to get distracted by social media and flipping through Facebook or Instagram on your phone. If you don't need your phone for work purposes, put it away. If you do need it for work purposes, put it on silent and set a time for yourself that you will check your phone. Perhaps from 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning, you focus on deep work, and from 9 o'clock to 9:15, you answer WhatsApps, you make phone calls if you need to, or you just check your phone. A good way to also show up is to just get showered and get dressed. But there's a baseline that I want to highlight that was proposed by James Clear. And this is the 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule is basically saying that no matter what, always show up. So the book Atomic Habits focuses on creating habits. And the 2-minute rule is a strategy in creating a new habit. And the point is to master the habit by showing up. So this 2-minute rule is basically saying that whatever you want to do, whatever new habit you want to create, start by doing it for 2 minutes. So if you, for instance, want to read a book, you might procrastinate because you don't have the time to read an entire book. So do something that is going to create that habit, but it only takes you 2 minutes. So in this case, read 1 page. If you want to start running a marathon, you can't necessarily run a 5-mile marathon straight off the bat. What you can do is put on your running shoes. And more often than not, doing that little 2-minute habit, if you keep showing up every day for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you just put on your running shoes. After some time, you are already in the habit of putting your shoes on, so you might as well get out the door and take a walk. Maybe you do a 1-mile walk. But the point is to show up. Do not skip a day, even if you just do it for 2 minutes. And this is where he makes the point that instead of putting this goal out there that you think is unattainable because it's too big, break it down into something so simple that you almost cannot say no. And once you get into the habit of showing up for that rule, it becomes so much easier to continue and building on that habit. The second strategy is to overcome your mental block. It is very normal to have a mental block. You don't know what you want to write, you don't know what you want to create, you don't know how to revise your strategy, and you're just stuck. There are a couple of things that I use every day if I run into a mental block. Google. That's the most obvious one. If you have to work on a certain problem or you have to come up with a certain solution, Google, and I'm not saying Google to steal ideas, but Google can spark ideas. You might find a couple of articles about the same problem or related to what you are trying to figure out. If you read through these things, something is going to stand out for you that will trigger your mind, and you start actually thinking about, oh, you know what, I actually think I can do this or this or this. Once you have some kind of idea, you can always take it to ChatGPT. It's my favorite AI tool. I put it into ChatGPT and I asked it, listen, I have an idea. I am thinking about this or this. Can you please give me a couple of pointers or ideas, or can you describe it to me, or what is available on this topic? And somewhere along the line, you will find something that's going to spark creativity. I watch YouTube videos. As much as I'm saying, put your phone away, put your phone on silent, that is just to get going. But if you're looking for inspiration when you have a mental block, I switch my Facebook and my Instagram time because, let's face it, it's entertaining. So I like going through the posts, I like watching the reels, I like TikTok, but switch that time for LinkedIn time. LinkedIn is a platform for professionals, and the ideas and the inspiration that you get there is amazing. People are always sharing either AI resources that they have discovered, or they write insightful articles. The third strategy is to be proactive about your daily planning. There's this term that I've learned recently. I've used it before, I just didn't know it was a thing, about blocking, about time blocking, that you literally block your calendar from the moment that you wake up until the moment that you go to bed. So it's a really great way of determining how much time you have in a day for deep focus, for research, for working on creative projects. Because sometimes there are tasks that you really like and you can literally spend the whole day. I can spend the whole day designing on Canva. I love it. But that's not going to grow my business. I need to focus on other aspects. So I block my times out that I need to focus on design. If I'm not done by that time, I move on to the next thing in my calendar, because that way I make sure that I get through everything that I have planned for that week. It is important to just understand the world that you are living in a startup. There are definitely a couple of factors that influence any procrastination tendencies. And this is true to any startup environment or any business, whether it is online or brick and mortar, whatever you are planning to build. There is uncertainty. There's no guarantee that your business is going to succeed. So you live with this uncertainty every single day if you are going to succeed or not, and if you are making a difference. That's the reality of a startup. We all go through it. The fear of failure. You don't know if you're wasting your time with a project or a business that's going to just end up in a failure. There's no guarantee. You don't know. So you constantly live with this fear. I don't want to fail, and what if I fail? In many cases, there's the added financial stress. Perhaps you do this as a side hustle and you still maintain your full-time job. But any startup takes a little bit of capital up front. So maybe you're using your savings to get the side hustle on the go, which means your savings is decreasing to cover anything else in the house or in your life. So there's the added financial stress. Perhaps you gave up your job and now you're full-time building your business. Time pressure. Whether you do this as a side hustle, whether you do this full-time, there's never enough time for everything that needs to be done. So you're constantly under pressure. And then on top of all of this, there's a whole bunch of boring tasks that need to be done in a startup that you don't necessarily like or want to do, but you cannot get this business successful without doing this. The full strategy to overcome procrastination is to hold yourself accountable. And this is not just publicly accountable, this is accountable by means of friends or family or colleagues. Being part of a team is probably the best way to get a startup off the ground, because it is much easier if you're alone at home to not do something or not complete a task and think, that's fine, I'll do it tomorrow, than letting your friend down and telling your friend, hey, listen, I'm sorry I didn't complete this. So the presentation is not finished. It's a lot harder to do. You're forcing your present self to think about the future self, who is going to get in a little bit of trouble if you keep letting the team down. And it might just be enough motivation to get going right now in order to avoid that. So according to James Clear, there are these three options. You can either make the rewards of your future self more immediate. He uses the idea of a vision board. So while your future self is thinking of the long-term benefits, if your present self can see the benefits, have a vision of where you are heading, put it on a vision board, put pictures of perhaps where you want to travel the world, or who you want to meet, or where you see your business is growing into, because then your present self gets that immediate satisfaction of seeing, oh, this is where we are going. The second one is to make the cost of procrastination more immediate. So make yourself accountable, perhaps announcing a public deadline. So you say that you are going to be posting a blog every Sunday, and you put that out there on your LinkedIn profile or your website or your blog, and you hold yourself accountable, because if you don't, there's a possibility that you might lose subscribers or interest or traction with where you are going to grow your audience. So make sure that the consequences of procrastination is felt by your present self. And then the last option that he proposes is to remove procrastination triggers. So if you are trying to diet, remove the cookie jar. If you tend to sit on your phone in the mornings when you wake up, put your phone out of reach so that you have to get out of bed to go to your phone. And by that point, when you are up, you might as well just start your day and leave your phone. The fifth strategy to overcome procrastination is a little bit of self-awareness and self-reflection. Perhaps none of the strategies are working for you. You just can't get yourself to get going. I know journaling is something that people have said many times, and you might think, oh my word, it's just another one that suggests journaling. It is really something that can get you from a point where you don't understand why you are procrastinating, writing down your feelings, working through whatever is holding you back, and actually getting to the point that you can start because you either figured out what was holding you back or you just had the opportunity to vent. If you don't like journaling, call up a friend or a colleague that you are close to and you can just talk about whatever is holding you back. I like a little bit of therapy, but not retail therapy that's going to cost you money. But at the end of the day, remember, procrastination is a very normal part of life. It's a very normal part of a startup. If you know how to overcome it, you can actually work on it. But sometimes the motivation is lacking just a little bit more. So look out for my video about how I stay motivated on a day-to-day basis in a startup, despite failures or successes, and just keep going. As for right now, try the 2-minute rule. Just start creating a new habit. Just show up, do it for 2 minutes, and you never know where you might end up. And think of your future self and let your future self win over your present self. Your present self can have a cookie later.